And here we go.
We've all heard of Route 66, but did you ever stop to think of all the women who worked along the 2,448-mile length of the most famous highway in the world? Well, just in time for this year's 100th anniversary of the iconic Mother Road, author Cheryl Eicher-Jett examines the myriad roles women played at the crossroads of Route 66 and women's history on St. Louis in Tune. Welcome to St. Louis in Tune, and thank you for joining us for fresh perspectives on issues and events with experts, community leaders, and everyday people who make a difference in shaping our society and world. I'm Arnold Stricker, along with co-host Mark Langston. A good greeting to you this morning.
Wow, you're all chipper and everything.
Hey.
Good to see that.
Yes, it is.
Good morning, good day.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Yes, all of that. All wrapped up in one whenever you're listening.
But good night.
Yes, and a good night, Johnny.
We're not signing off.
Yeah, no, not yet. But hey, it's good to see you. Good to be seen.
Good to be seen. We're glad that you've joined us today, folks. We want to thank our sponsor, Better Rate Mortgage, for their support of the show. You can listen to previous shows at stlintune.com, where you can follow us and even leave a review. Our thought to ponder today is by a very important gentleman in the literary realm. Highway 66 is the main migrant road. 66 is the path of a people in flight. 66 is the Mother Road, the road of flight. He's the one who coined the phrase Mother Road for Route 66, none other than, drumroll, John Steinbeck.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that actually was the, I don't want to say the foundation, but it was an inspiration for him writing The Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. So I learn things on this show all the time.
We do too.
I know.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Isn't that cool?
I never knew that.
He coined the phrase the Mother Road, and that was from The Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck. Well, she's been through a lot of Grapes of Wrath herself, I'm sure, but our author, Cheryl Eicher-Jett, is an American author, playwright, and journalist with 7 previous books, including Route 66 in Illinois and hundreds of published articles. She's known for her Route 66 and travel writing for Arcadia Publications and Route Magazine. She earned a graduate degree in history from SIUE, and she's traced for a long time the crossroads of women's history with Route 66 and directed 2 productions of her stage play based on that research. Welcome to St. Louis in Tune, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
Now, did the book come out of the play that you wrote? Is that how this kind of all came about?
Actually, it didn't, and that's a good assumption because the play came before the book.
Uh-huh.
But the book did not evolve from the play.
Okay, so what was the play about?
The play is about the same topic. I actually started researching this topic about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I was busy doing an awful lot of travel writing, and so my book sort of was in fits and starts. So I spent a lot of time doing magazine articles and presentations using this material in various groups of women. And I was sort of at a low point with the book where I thought, oh, I'm never going to get around to getting this done. And I just woke up one morning and I just had this, not a vision, because I'm not sure I believe in visions, but I could envision these women stepping forward on a stage and telling their own stories.
One thing Mark and I were talking about was that it's a great perspective and it's a different perspective on Route 66. And from my perspective, that you just didn't cover Missouri. You covered all the way from Chicago to LA, and you have stories of Illinois women in here, Missouri, Oklahoma, you go down Arizona, New Mexico, California, and it's nice to glean history around that too.
And Cheryl, just for context, what's the route of Route 66? Where does it start and where does it end? Just for those that may not.
The eastern terminus, the original eastern terminus, is Jackson and Boulevard, that intersection. That's the Art Institute intersection in Chicago. And then in 1937, it was moved out just a little way onto the new Lakeshore Drive.
Okay.
And the original western terminus is downtown Los Angeles at 7th and Broadway. But then that was extended too, although it's never been looked at as official, but it became the thing to go as far as Santa Monica Pier. So that 2,448 miles is the number that the National Park Service gives us. They said that is the most accurate average that we can come up with.
Mm-hmm. How long does it take someone? I'm sorry, I just
No, you're good.
so much swimming around in my head. How long does it take to maybe drive that? I'm sure there's. I mean, about as you know.
That's something that's often underestimated. People think I've got a week off. I'll drive from
Right.
Chicago to Los Angeles. And the thing is, as a U.S. highway, 66 was one contiguous road, although it was built on a series of generally pre-made roads. But once the route was decommissioned in 1985, it was fully decommissioned. So in other words, in 1985, U.S. Highway 66 was simply removed from the federal highway system. And then the different parts of the highway reverted back to either what they were before or they became something else. So they were either surface streets with the city's, administration and maintenance, or a state road, a county road, a township road.
Right.
Some almost became parts of driveways, not quite, but it
Right.
was just about to that point. So it's not this contiguous thing. It's signed in each state along the various alignments. But sorry, getting back to your
No, that's
question.
good. No,
It really needs 3-4 weeks if you're going to really see everything,
Really?
because if you go shorter than that, what you find you're doing is you're driving the interstate and then you're popping off on this exit and that exit to see something that you want to see, and then you're popping back on the interstate again. So you're not really getting the experience.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the longer, the better.
Okay. Fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating.
And your description in Aprons Away, which is the name of the book, Aprons Away, Women's Work on Route 66, describes a variety of what I would call vocations and places, people, places, and things
Yes,
along the way.
absolutely.
And how did you determine which people, which places, and which things to include in your book?
I can't
I'm
wait.
always so afraid people are going to ask me what my criteria was. I
Right.
did have some loose criteria. I preferred that it was women that had passed, women that were not still living. However, I violated that rule right away because there were several locations, particularly some vintage motels, vintage businesses,
Mhm.
where several generations of women had operated it. So it seemed really unfair to tell the oldest woman's story and then leave readers hanging. Well,
Right.
who came next? So there are several instances where there are living women that are described in this book, but it's kind of this, heritage sort of thing. But that was one primary thing. I tried to give a good variety
Mhm.
of creative pursuits, work roles. I tried to make it approximately half and half mix of what I call the visible women on Route 66. And of course, those were the ones that served the traveling public, the ones that were a waitress or a restaurant operator or owned a souvenir shop, that sort of thing. And then the other kind of 50% or so of the women were doing jobs, businesses, creative pursuits, vocations that you don't associate with Route 66, but they were there behind the scenes.
And they were where people would go to, like hotels, or you have architects in here. You talk
Exactly.
you have the gas station gals, an apron and a coffee pot, public service, artists. And your research on this, I know you've been doing this for 10 years, but it's like, holy smokes, when I found out that William Randolph Hearst's father came from Missouri.
Yes.
I didn't
know that.
Really?
No, I didn't know it before I started
Right.
researching the book because I had never done research specifically on the Hearst family.
And specifically, was it, if I recall, St. Clair or Cuba?
St. Clair.
St. Clair, Missouri.
I think it was St. Clair.
Isn't that crazy?
That
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
That's
it really,
unbelievable.
it really was. And he had made a couple trips to California, and he was one of the few that actually struck gold.
Oh no.
He went, the sort of legendary
Right.
thing that
Uh-huh.
people pursued that most didn't accomplish.
Right.
He went to California and found gold, made money, came back, got married, and they went back out there. And then the connection with, of course, architect Julia Morgan was incredible.
Wow.
And she is basically known because she's architect of the Hearst, for the Hearst family.
Right.
She also was the designer of the Los Angeles Herald Examiner newspaper in downtown Los Angeles, which was originally a Hearst newspaper, but that's what helped to put her on or near Route 66.
You know,
Wow.
Mark, one of the things I really enjoyed about this was, Black history and women's history are often left out of general history. And
Okay.
this really fills in a lot of gaps. It provides not only what I would there's Black women in this book too, and I'm glad you did that. There's Native American women in this book
Yes.
who contributed to all along Route 66
And
also.
Latina. There's some
Yes.
Latina women in here as well.
So it's a really good, you can call it a history book of not only the highway, but of women and their contributions in the United States during a time of, what would you say, like the highway would have been like the mid 30s to maybe the mid 50s?
Well, it was designated 1926.
Okay.
So, of course, we're experiencing the centennial this year. But one of the things that I always look at Route 66 as, particularly in the earlier decades that you mentioned, it's just a microcosm of American history, because
Right.
the 20s, you've got that roaring 20s thing, the prohibition, which,
Mhm.
with Al Capone in the gangster
Right.
thing in Chicago, we're really familiar with that here. But in Oklahoma, that was, Missouri, that was a thing too. And then the 30s, with the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl immigrants, well, that Dust Bowl situation hit Arkansas and Oklahoma. Not that Arkansas is part of Route 66, but I
Right.
mean, adjacent to
Right.
Oklahoma, the Great Plains. And so we saw those people heading toward California. 40s, World War II affected the whole country. It affected all of Route 66. And that's where our 4-lane highways, particularly on Route 66, really got, initiated, because you couldn't take military traffic on a little narrow 2-lane winding curvy highway. So that was a part of it. But, when I talk about the Dust Bowl immigrants going to California, we've always had this westward movement, the
Right.
manifest destiny, the
Mhm.
go farther and let's make more states out of this Native American country. And so that's just such a symbol of Route 66, is that westward movement. Of course, those of us that are simply tourists, we've got to turn around and come back again. But the Western movement is kind of the symbol of it. And during my research, I found the funniest quote, and I can't say it verbatim, but from Frank Lloyd Wright, because Frank Lloyd Wright also traveled Route 66.
Interesting.
And he knew that the direction that people were going, whether they were Dust Bowl immigrants or they were attracted by the, drive your automobile, everything, the car culture in California. So Frank Lloyd Wright said, every now and then the continent tips a little bit and more things slide to California.
Yeah.
Then if the San Andreas Fault goes
Yeah,
and
I was
falls to the ocean.
It
You're right.
would tip a little farther.
Yeah.
But I love that quote. And there again, it's not word for word, but
Right.
I just think it's such a great quote. And it so sums up, because I'm old enough. I remember going to California in the backseat of, dad and mom at the wheel, and heading from Illinois to California because you were going to Disneyland and you were
Right.
going to Marineland of the Pacific. And my dad, as a young man, had been to Hollywood, where he worked a while. So, of course, he wanted to see Hollywood again. And it's just, sort of a trope. It's just this thing where you had to go to California.
Wow.
Yeah, your biggest surprise in researching this, and other than William Randolph Hearst's father, but or either in a category or for a person or for one of the states.
I guess it shouldn't have been a surprise, but I found the category of artistic pursuits mainly in California. And there again, just what we were talking about.
Right.
So I guess it shouldn't have been a surprise, but it was because I had this chart while I was working on the book, and I had two sides to the chart, and one was how many women in each category of pursuit or vocation, and then how many people are in each state, because I didn't want it to be terribly lopsided. You
Right.
know, I was conscious of that from Illinois. I thought, well, I don't want to put all Illinois stories in
Right.
here if it's supposed to be about the whole
Favoritism. Yeah.
route. But then I ended up with Mary Coulter, Southwest in California, architect Julia Morgan, primarily in California, Harriet Tapp Burns, that was a designer at Disney, California. And then I thought, well, I guess that's, it's the way it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the surprise that I have found really after I finished the book is how surprised readers are at, this woman did this at their pursuits, or at and really there again, that shouldn't be a surprise. Women were working at all these
Right.
things all along.
Yeah.
But is it a surprise because we just haven't heard about it?
Yeah. But I think that and there's another little piece of that too, because some of these women are they're not well known. Mary Coulter's pretty well known, Julia Morgan, at least in architectural circles. But so many of these women, and painters, artists, they're not associated with Route 66. And
Right.
that's been what the surprise has been for everybody. Oh, I didn't know she worked on Route 66.
But you tied them into Route 66 because maybe one of the buildings that they built was a block away, and people
Yes.
flocked there, or there was a restaurant right there that was very popular and people flocked there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I was surprised by that sort of process, of
So,
I'm kind of sad they decommissioned the road. I think they should have kept it as a historical road for our country. I think it's it's got quite a history.
Some of the states, it's become a scenic byway, an official scenic byway.
Right.
But,
But like you say,
it
it's
would have been
choppy.
nice.
You have to come off, and I know it goes through like Staunton, Illinois. You have to. I mean, that's
the
a
Pink
bit-
Elephant Antique.
yeah, it's a
Mhm.
bit off the highway if you want to go and enjoy that.
Right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think Paul McCartney attempted to drive.
Paul McCartney drove, I think, just about all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, but
But there's a lot of people that agree with that. The real purists of the road
Right.
and the car folks will never get over it. That
No.
it was decommissioned, and I get it.
I do too.
Was like Americana.
yeah, it's
at its
really
heart.
a part of the
Yeah.
thread of our history here, and
Mhm.
it's just
Absolutely.
maybe the next president will do that. Put some money aside and redo it.
Where did that come
I don't know.
You
Sure.
never know.
You never know. I like the never know. Okay.
This is Arnold Strick with Mark Langston of St. Louis in Tune,
You
also
never know.
AKA You Never Know. Or you're going to find out something that you've never
I
known
know, I
before here
know.
on the show.
This happens when you get older. When you
We're
get
more seasoned, Mark.
Yes, nostalgic.
We're talking to Cheryl Eicher-Jett about her latest book, Aprons Away, Women's Work on Route 66. And the title, Throw Them Aprons Off, Ladies.
Absolutely, you got it.
But the women contributed more. I guess sometimes some people think that during the wartime, women really stepped up and did a lot of work. But these women were like all the time. Didn't matter if it was wartime or not. They were there
Absolutely.
contributing.
And historians, particularly women's historians, have argued for years over whether the World War II years were a watershed moment or
Correct.
not for women going to work. And most conclude that it was not, because either the jobs they did were no longer needed after the war, and or their menfolk came home and took the jobs back.
Right.
But the other argument to that is that those women gained work experience in very specific trades, and they gained confidence that they could do those jobs. So I would like to argue that it certainly wasn't a total waste.
Well, then,
No.
and it also seemed applicable to other kinds of aspects of a profession. Like maybe you were
Right.
running a hotel, but hey, if I've done that, I can run this other business here.
Absolutely. They gained skills that were transferable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I might say, Cheryl, I love your earrings. She
Oh,
has.
thank you.
She has Route 66 earrings on.
I just noticed that
Did
when
you?
you
I
said
know.
that.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
can't see it on radio, but they are Route 66. The sign. They're the federal sign shape.
Do you have a favorite woman in here or women? And it could be several.
Well,
Yeah, there's several.
Is that
I've
like
been
who-
art and architecture fans all my life. So I can't help just love Mary Coulter and Julia Morgan and some of the visual artists some of the mural artists in here that really struck me. There were other women, just odd stories that I just really loved. One is in St. James, Missouri, the first female mayor.
Yes.
And you probably came
Yes.
upon that.
I love
that-
her saying.
Yes, absolutely. So she took advantage of the fact that women had gained the vote, because when they moved to St. James, they didn't have children, and she thought, this town could use some cleaning up. So she ran for mayor the first time in 1921, and the women were able to come out and vote, so that was great. And she served 3 more terms, and she did a lot to clean up the town, and I think she sort of planted the seeds for public utilities, that sort of thing. But my favorite thing, of course, is she had signs made, so when you entered St. James and when you left St. James, it would say something like, please drive slow and enjoy our beautiful city, drive fast and see our beautiful jail.
Love it.
Yeah.
We need more of those signs.
Yeah, exactly.
She just had that that sass. She
Yeah.
just had that sass about her. And then there was a woman in Groom, Texas, that just had that same sense about her. Her name was Ruby Denton. She came from super average, probably poor family. She worked in restaurants, waitressing and cooking, and she was known as a fabulous cook. When the fellow retired from the restaurant that she was currently working at, she wanted to buy it, and she went to the bank, and they told her flatly, we don't loan money to divorced women.
Oh, that's terrible.
So she had a network of friends and distant relatives that somehow came up with the money. And but Ruby was a really, really sassy person, and there's some funny stories about her. I was lucky to interview one of her daughters, and getting to know the daughter, I think the daughter was really a chip off the old block, because when she'd tell the Ruby stories, her mom's stories, it was just like, wow, this sounds really authentic. But anyway, she was kind of feisty, and they all knew her as that. And one day there were a group of men that came in, off the road. There was parking there, and they pulled in, came in the restaurant, and one of them either went back out to the car to get something or went in the restroom or something, but he kind of disappeared, I guess, for a minute. And I think Ruby just sort of had that sense as though, if waiting on people, how many people there are to take care of, or there are 3 people or
Right,
5 people
right.
or whatever. And this guy kind of popped up behind her when he came from wherever he was, and she jumped. It startled her, and she jumped, and I think it messed up her mental count, of how many people she had there. And she kind of, had an attitude toward this group until they finally left. And she said, I wonder who those people were. And somebody in the restaurant said, Ruby, that was the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh, no.
But it just demonstrated, she was pretty feisty with people. She had a good heart and she liked people, but she was feisty with them. So I just thought that those 2 stories are just so fun. And I mean, the edge maybe that those women needed to have at the time.
Well, Arnold sings Elvira all the time. Oak Ridge Boys song.
He had to clarify.
I
that.
know. Oh, Laura, come on, you can do it.
The
It does it all the time. It's that low note. I don't know how you do it.
I was yeah, you got me speechless here.
Did
I was amazed at the especially and maybe I shouldn't be amazed, in Southern California, how some of the women were accepted, especially in the architectural area, in the early 20s. And they were going to the San Francisco School of Architecture. That might not be the name of it, but for lack of better words, that's what I'm calling it. And then they got on firms right away, and then they were designing buildings and that are like prominent buildings, and they had their own firms. And it's like, for that to happen that early, that was a real significant thing. And for them to be, my words, allowed to, because you just mentioned that story about, this.
Exactly.
She wants to go buy this place, and they're not going to give her a loan because she was divorced,
Yeah. And then they also, besides telling her that they were divorced, she was also told that she got rid of a good Christian man.
Ooh. Oh.
So, they were pretty down on Ruby. So you can understand
Yeah.
why she ended up with an attitude
Yeah,
of sorts. But these women that you speak of with the architects now, I will say Julia Morgan had a mentor, Bernard Maybeck, who was at the time, a really well-known architect, and he was a male architect. So I think that assisted her to get started.
But everybody has some kind of mentor that, really helps. And then you have to perform.
You have to perform.
You have
or you're
to
out.
show your work.
Yes.
And that it has to be something that people like. Otherwise, you're not around anymore.
Exactly. Well, Julia Morgan had over 700 buildings built from her designs.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Which is,
crazy.
I don't know how many designs on average a modern, a living now architect would turn out, but 700 seems like an awful lot to me.
Well, let's talk about your other love, which is the art end of that. Miriam McKinney, I'm very fond of, and I know her. I don't know her. She's obviously passed, but I know her work.
Yes.
And I didn't know that she had done some murals over at the Edwardsville Library.
Absolutely.
But and I also didn't know she was up in Minnesota and then down. She ended up here in Arkansas and in the metropolitan area. Talk about her a little bit.
Well, she started out as a, just normal family, but she did have art influence from her family. She had father, grandfather, I think there was an uncle too, that were not necessarily artists, but they were appreciative of art and perhaps did some art collecting. So they did move around a little bit. When her father died, they moved to Edwardsville because they had some relatives there. And they lived in the most interesting house in Edwardsville. They lived in a house that was built by an associate of Frank Lloyd Wright, Walter Burley Griffin, who was in Frank Lloyd Wright's office. And Walter Burley Griffin designed this house in Edwardsville, which is actually across the intersection from our West End service station, Route 66 Welcome Center.
Oh, wow.
And so Walter Burley Griffin designed this house for his brother, and they didn't live in the house very long. So when Miriam McKinney was young, her family moved there. So just all these weird connections. Yeah, just connections everywhere. So there was one particular artist and art instructor whose name escapes me at the moment, but she sort of followed him from art school to art school. And then at one point he passed away. Within a short period of time, he had passed away and her father had passed away. And she sort of felt like she was making these start overs, new starts all the time. So eventually she was without family. She was without anyone, and she decided to move back to Edwardsville. And then she did marry a man in Edwardsville and lived there for a while before she started teaching a lot in St. Louis and then ended up in Arkansas. But the first two murals that she did for the Edwardsville Public Library were part of that 1930s New Deal thing where artists and writers were being supported somewhat with federal funds. And she did one mural about industry, and then she did one that was about nature and crops. But the Edwardsville Library suffered a severe fire and those murals were lost. So she came back later and she painted 2 more murals. This time she painted children's murals. They're like fairy tales, that
Mhm.
sort of thing. And they're still there. They're still there
Interesting.
in our children's department in the
Interesting.
Edwardsville Library. So
I think one of the interesting things for me, because I always liked when we would drive as a kid and you'd go to a quote unquote filling station.
yes,
And there's a picture in here. I think gas is what, 12 cents or 15 cents a gallon? They obviously didn't have any problems back
No,
then.
with Iran, no.
no,
They're right.
But how
Stop.
many of those, if you're driving down 44, Interstate 44,
Mhm.
you do see these remnants of these old filling stations. They're just like a little stone
yeah,
cottage that's maybe a 1 or 2 room, and then you got the overhang
Right.
where the pumps would be, and you would pull in there. But some of the stories you have in here where the women were the driving force behind these things, or they took over
yeah,
the
The gas
business
station
and-
gals.
gas station gals. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
Yeah, and
just-
that was often the situation, not just with gas stations, but with other businesses along the route. They were mom and pop enterprises, but pop wasn't there anymore. You know, either they were divorced or he just drove away or
Mhm.
he died, and
Mhm.
mom was left, and mom could kind of sink or swim.
Right.
You also include stories about how other people took over other people's businesses, like Gay Mason and Leela Mason, and then Lena Call Turner
Yes.
kind of took over the business and carried on and I guess cleaned up the shop or whatever. And it's not right on 66 anymore, but it's or it's there, but it's the highway interstate's there.
Right, right.
Talk
So
about
people-
those stories there.
Well, people have to be looking for those places
Yeah.
because otherwise they could sit there and nobody would ever come by. And sometimes, as we know in Illinois and a lot of Missouri, the new road and the interstate is real close to the old road. You can kind of see it,
Right.
or it'll
Right.
it at an exit it'll say Old Route 66. You
Mhm.
could get off at that exit
Right.
and see it. But there's some places where that wasn't the case, and Gary Turner's Gay Parita Station was one of those where it was quite a ways off the interstate. So you would kind of need to know that it was there and wanted to see it. But that's a wonderful example of 4 different women that have either helped to preside or
Mhm.
did preside over that station. And of course, there's a living woman there now because Lena Cole Turner's daughter, Barbara, and her partner have it
Carrying
now.
on.
Yeah, they're carrying on.
Isn't that great?
And they're one
Oh,
of
it's
the
wonderful.
favorite places in Missouri to stay. You could not find more hospitality
Really.
than you find. They have added to the kind of little complex there, and they've got a covered patio sort of thing. And when you drive in there, her partner George is right there, and he says, "Can I get you a Coke? How about a slice of watermelon?"
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Ooh.
I'll take both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And Barbara is just one of the sweetest women I have ever met.
Oh,
and
big time.
and so that was one of the instances where I had to tell about all the women
Right.
and the story with the one that's there now, living and breathing and doing a fabulous job.
And more context of history, you mentioned the Green Book, which I'm very appreciative of, and the ranch out in where is it? Out near L.A.
Apple Valley.
Yeah, Apple Valley Ranch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Talk about that. And,
Oh, wow.
entice the listeners to get the book and to come see you at your signings, because we're going to talk about the signings here in a minute. But
We have a
entice them a little
few.
bit. Yeah, you got a few signings.
Well, this couple had lived in Los Angeles, and they moved out there and were able to buy some property in an area in and around Apple Valley that was friendly to Black folks buying property and living there, of course, which was the first, hurdle. And their original idea was to start a youth ranch because they knew that there were, youth in the environs of Los Angeles that needed some help. And so that was the original idea, but they couldn't make a living doing that. And at that time, there weren't any programs or enough programs to support it.
Right.
So they said, well, I guess we'll just make it a dude ranch. So, it was known afterwards as the only Negro dude ranch, is
I'll be
what it
darned.
was called. Not that we use that term anymore,
Yeah.
but being historically accurate, that's what it was called.
Okay.
So they had that for quite a while. It was very popular. She had bad health, which was part of why they got out of Los Angeles proper to begin with. And she wasn't real young, but she wasn't real old either when she passed away. And then he gave it up, and it went through a couple different owners, and then it was eventually owned by I'm blank. Pearl Bailey. I
Right,
believe
Pearl
it was.
Bailey.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you just read that. And I think various things. Times were changing. Some of the Black-owned business stories that I read, the owners were sort of like, well, darn, we got civil rights, but now the Blacks don't have to do business with us, so we're losing our business.
Right.
And so, the ranch is long gone.
But along grocery stores along the way,
Right.
gas stations
Yes.
along the way, places, hotels,
Mhm.
etc., along the way where you had to find a place to stay,
Right.
and these were advertised in the Green Book, and I'm glad you included that.
Yeah.
We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to come back because we're going to talk about something that famously sat on the riverfront in St. Louis that was designed by a woman who's mentioned in this book. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston of St. Louis in Tune. Don't go away. As strange as it may sound, at Better Rate Mortgage, we love talking to people about mortgages. Everyone in St. Louis promises a better mortgage rate, but what you really need to turn that perfect house into your dream home is a better mortgage. At Better Rate Mortgage, we open the door to so much more. So where are you in the home buying process? Researching? Maybe wondering how much you can afford? House hunting? Get a pre-approval from Better Rate Mortgage. Ready to buy? Our team is ready to make your mortgage process fast and easy. Whether you're purchasing your first home or taking cash out to make your dream home even dreamier, our door is open. Come on in and get started today. We'll show you how. Call Sean directly at 314-375-3293 or online at betterratemortgage.com. Remember, at Better Rate Mortgage, a better rate is just the beginning. betterratemortgage.com. NMLS ID score 01335 and equal housing. Welcome back to St. Louis in Tune. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston. We're talking to Cheryl Eichert-Jett about her book, Aprons Away, Women's Work on Route 66. And this particular woman, I was just floored because Mark and I have both been on the Admiral before, the SS Admiral.
Oh,
and
yeah.
folks, if you're not familiar with that, you can goggle it
God.
and find out what it was about. And also, didn't only design the Admiral, but also designed another ship. Talk about
Wow.
Maisie Georgiana Krebs.
I love Maisie's story. That she should go back in what we talked about a while ago, my favorite women. I love this woman's story. Maisie grew up in a vaudeville family here in St. Louis. She was a vaudeville brat.
Wow.
And when she wasn't on the road performing with her family, she attended public school here in St. Louis. And she was very creative, very artistically creative. And she went through high school here and won a scholarship to Washington University School of Art.
She went to Cleveland High School, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy. This is crazy talk. Wow.
Keep going. Sorry.
And no problem. I know it's a thing that St. Louis is more high school oriented.
I don't know
I'm
why,
an
but
Illinois girl, so
yeah.
I don't know if we do that or not.
Yeah,
Yes, maybe we do. But anyhow,
Probably
so Maisie
not.
went to art school, but the scholarship didn't pay for everything, and her family was out doing what vaudevillians do on the road. And she found she had to, earn some money, so she taught dancing. And she just got tired of doing everything, the way she put it in an interview. She said, I had to do everything. It was too much work. I was going to school and I was, drawing and I was teaching dance. And so she quit school. She had a scholarship and she quit school. But she had enough art training and enough talent, I guess, that she talked her way into the famous bar company. back when people actually drew fashion ads
Right.
for the newspaper advertising, and so that's what she did. She drew, fashion ads for Famous Bar. Then she worked out of an ad agency also in St. Louis, and her ad agency, and I believe she did some of the work for a ship or boat company up in Alton, Streckfus Steamer Company. So then she took a little jaunt up to Chicago, where she worked on exhibits for the World's Fair, 1931, 1932 World's Fair. And while she was up there, a representative from the Streckfus Steamer Company came to her. This story is documented, but it sounds so contrived to me that
Okay.
I'm not sure. But the story, as it's been written and researched before me, is that this captain from the Streckfus Steamer Company came up to Chicago, or maybe he was already there visiting the fair, but talked to Maisie and said, that ad agency in St. Louis that you used to work for? He said, I've got a steamer, the president, that I'd like them to do some work on. Maybe they could do some design work for me. Well, of course, Maisie submitted her own designs and she got hired. And then when it came time to do the Admiral, then, she was called back. And the training and the work that she had done in Chicago made her very aware of the sort of newfangled Art Deco design. And she loved that. And this Captain Streckfus was really wanting to do something different. He wanted to go the exact opposite direction from the old time gingerbread calliope playing type of steamboat, that's something to take us into the future. And so that really, I think, it's my opinion, but I think that's one of the biggest reasons that Maisie got that job, because she was equipped to handle that style. And style she did, everything was just elaborate and beautiful. And
what an iconic boat that was.
I read that back in those days that a woman didn't feel like she'd had a good time on the Admiral unless she had visited every one of the ladies' restrooms, because they were all styled differently and so very beautiful.
Is that right? I've never been in the women's restrooms in the Admiral.
I would hope not.
I know. Really.
What are you saying, Mark?
I don't know.
We're on the air here,
I
Mark.
enjoyed being on the Admiral a lot, but I never knew
I
that.
think he's explaining why he didn't know that.
You just had a
Right
trough.
there, I'm throwing you a rope.
Right.
I found that
Okay.
that along with every one of these things just like constantly blowing my mind. The documentarians,
Oh, aren't they wonderful?
it just goes on and on and on. Your research of this and the people that you've selected for this, just outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And along those lines, I had to cut so many of the stories that I had collected that I have enough for a second volume.
I was going to say, is there a part 2 coming?
I knew it.
That's not official.
The unabridged version.
That's a thought in my head at this point, but
I would say you need to do that.
physically there is enough material for a second volume.
Well,
So speaking about material, the book is published by Reedy Press. It can be purchased at Reedy Press, reedypress.com.
Yes.
And also, if you wanted to meet Cheryl, she has some presentations and book signings. Now, I'll post this on the podcast page, but write these down unless you're driving. Okay, so Saturday, June the 6th.
Why not? Who cares?
in Edwardsville, Illinois, at the West End Service Station. June the 11th at
Wait, you're going to be at a service station?
Yeah, it's along Route
like a
66.
gas station.
It's the visitor center for
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The filling
thought that was
station.
it's really
It's
great.
a
but-
filling station restored into a visitor center.
Okay. All right. I love it.
Thursday, June 11th at 6 Mile Regional Library in Granite City. June 13th at the.
That has been moved to later in the year. So
Okay.
tell people
To be determined.
Yeah,
Okay.
to be determined.
All right.
That
So
one is-
cancel that one, folks. We're going to go back.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's been moved to a different
There's a
date.
book signing June 13th in Edwardsville City Park. June 14th at the Old Courthouse here in St. Louis.
Oh,
June the 17th at the White Oak Library in Lockport, Illinois. A book signing June the 20th at the Litchfield Museum in Litchfield, Illinois. July the 23rd in Alton at the Hainer Public Library. The 9th of August at the Litchfield Museum. The 13th of August at the National Museum of Transportation on Barrett Station Road. There you go. We'll post those
Thank
so you can get those, and make sure if you want to get the book, you can get it there, or you can see her and have it signed. Are you going to, I know it's a presentation. What do they do at a presentation? Do they go, here's your book? Is that what they do?
It seems so. There's a lot of words that float around that are somewhat interchangeable: program, presentation, book talk, lecture. And some people use one term and some use another, and I think it's sort of all. But exactly, a presentation. It seems like somebody should get a book or an award.
Yeah.
I might add that there are quite a few more events that are not on the list that you got, but they are on my website.
And your website is
CherylEicherJet.com.
You better spell
I'll post
it
that at CherylEicherJett.com.
Yes.
And I'll post that on the website also.
I have a crazy question. I'm sorry. I mean, we're talking about words.
From the guy that has never been in the women's bathrooms on the Admiral, and he admits it.
Where words mean so many different things. So, do you prefer route or route?
Oh, that's a funny question.
Come from a funny man. I'm a route guy.
Some people say route. Some people say route. Our own tourism bureau across the big muddy Mississippi is Great Rivers and Route, but they handle Route 66. The route thing sort of got implanted in Bobby Troupe's song.
Right.
And since then, even if people normally say route, they usually say route. So if you look it up, then it talks about British pronunciation and English and then are you using it for this purpose and that purpose? So say what you want, but generally for this highway, it's route.
I can't see Nat King Cole and the Trios singing "Get Your Kicks on Route 66."
Can't do it.
Goes back to my broadcast days in school.
Absolutely.
It was a big conversation, route and route.
Okay.
And I think route is supposed to be the way, but route has developed.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Well, it's a fun question to figure out how people like it. Yeah.
Well, folks, if you have more questions for Cheryl, you can meet her at one of those places, but you need to get her book, Aprons Away, Women's Work on Route 66. Cheryl Eicher-Jett, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a lot of fun.
Thank you. We're going to take a brief break, and Cheryl, you're allowed to stay here if you want. We're going to wrap things up. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston of St. Louis Tune. Catch some more mental floss about Route 66 in just a moment. Everyone in St. Louis promises a better mortgage rate, but what you really need to turn that perfect house into your dream home is a better mortgage. At Better Rate Mortgage, we open the door to so much more. Whether you're purchasing your first home or taking cash out to make your dream home even dreamier, our door is open. Come on in and get started today. We'll show you how. Call Sean directly at 314-375-3293 or online at betterratemortgage.com. Remember, at Better Rate Mortgage, a better rate is just the beginning. betterratemortgage.com. NMLS ID 401335, an equal housing lender. This is Arnold Stricker of St. Louis in Tune on behalf of the Dred Scott Heritage Foundation. In 1857, the Dred Scott decision was a major legal event and catalyst that contributed to the Civil War. The decision declared that Dred Scott could not be free because he was not a citizen. The 14th Amendment, also called the Dred Scott Amendment, granted citizenship to all born or naturalized here in our country and was intended to overturn the U.S. Supreme Court decision on July 9, 1868. The Dred Scott Heritage Foundation is requesting a commemorative stamp to be issued from the U.S. Postal Service to recognize and remember the heritage of this amendment by issuing a stamp with the likeness of the man Dred Scott. But we need your support and the support of thousands of people who would like to see this happen. To achieve this goal, we ask you to download, sign, and share the one-page petition with others. To find the petition, please go to dredscottlives.org and click on the Dred Scott Petition Drive on the right side of the page. On behalf of the Dred Scott Heritage Foundation, this has been Arnold Stricker of St. Louis in Tune. Welcome back to St. Louis in Tune. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston. Thank you for joining us. Aprons Away, A Woman's Work on Route 66, Cheryl Eicher Jett. Got to catch that book, folks. Very good.
Yep.
Great paperback. Fun read about the 2,448-mile journey. So some mental floss here, Mark,
Okay.
about Route 66. In 1928, promoters held a foot race across Route 66. Now, not just going the width. This is the length. Charles Pyle spearheaded an ambitious promotional plan for the new highway, a race from L.A. to New York City, which was not the end of, Chicago was the only catch. The race would happen entirely on foot. He dubbed it the Transcontinental Foot Race, though some skeptical newspaper reporters soon began referring to it as the Bunyan Derby.
Yeah.
The prize was $25,000. Nearly 300 runners set out to sprint across the country. The first 2,400 miles of the 3,400-mile race followed Route 66 with checkpoints in towns that had agreed to finance. Ultimately, Cherokee citizen Andy Payne took home the title. If you drive through Oklahoma on Route 66 today, you can still find his statue. And take a moment to consider how lucky you are to reach your final destination on wheels and in fewer than 573 hours.
Wow. Wow. Where did they sleep along the way? They just stop and jump in
It's crazy.
a ditch?
Crazy.
Anywhere they could.
Right.
So I mentioned about John Steinbeck earlier,
Yes, I remember.
and he nicknamed Route 66 the Mother Road. It's gone by many names since its 1926 inception, including America's Main Street, but Steinbeck's the Mother Road. In his Depression-era novel, The Grapes of Wrath, he tells the story of the poor family who flees Oklahoma for California during the Dust Bowl. They travel along Route 66 with thousands of fellow migrants. He said, 66 is the path of people in flight. 66 is the Mother Road, the mother of flight.
Wow. That's great.
There's a couple other things like the Great Depression spurred thousands to head west, which we just kind of found out. The New Deal helped finish Route 66.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Has a long military history. It crosses how many states?
I'm going to have to think about that. Let me see.
8 states, 2,400 paved miles, ran from the Great Lakes to the edge of the Pacific. So we have Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Arizona, and New Mexico before arriving in Southern California. The longest stretch drivable is in Oklahoma.
Wow. Okay. Who knew? We're going to have to find that drum roll for you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it went. I think the drums are.
The snare's been turned off.
They're working on the drums somewhere over there. Oh, wait, I think we found it. Okay. Next time.
You have any day? Is it Route 66 Day?
No, it should be. It's American Indian Citizenship Day.
Oh, that works too.
Yeah, doesn't that? It's
Yeah,
kind of
that's a good
close to
one. Yeah.
what's been happening here
Yeah,
with
what we're
all this
talking
stuff.
about.
I know.
Yes.
National Bubba Day.
Ooh, that's every day, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Depends on who you meet that day.
I know it. Let's see. National First Ladies Day.
Okay.
I don't know. My wife was a first lady when I was a mayor. She was the first lady of
Yeah.
Maplewood.
Yeah.
She even has a shirt that says First Lady. She hated it. Okay. National I Love My Dentist Day. This is your favorite day, isn't it?
It is.
Arnold's had more work.
You have more work in the dentist chair.
I know.
I can sleep in the dentist chair.
It seems like every time his kid is going to college, you have a lot of work.
Or he needs a car painting.
You have a lot of work done.
That's what I said one time. I went into the oral surgeon. Oh, I guess you got to pay for your new
Did you?
car.
I believe it. National Rocky Road Day. Do you like Rocky Road? Anybody? No, you're not a Rocky Road guy.
I'll eat it.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll eat all ice cream.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Republic Day in Italy. If you, I have a friend going
Republic Day. Which government are they on now?
to Italy. Who knows? I know.
513th.
And this is for everybody. National Leave Work Early Day is today. So we're going now. We're not going to finish the
We'll
last 10
see ya.
minutes. We're done.
Ka-ching.
We're out of here. Sorry. Okay. It's just going to go
We
quiet.
don't have any fun on the
It's
show.
going to go quiet all of a sudden. And that's just a few of the many, many things that Congress has passed because they're doing that instead of
the important things of life
Right.
for us.
National Best Friends Day. How
Yeah.
about that? That's coming up. National Best Friends Day.
Okay.
World Bicycle Day.
Yeah.
Are you
Great.
still riding your electric bike?
Yes, I am.
There's a big thing about those lately.
I love them.
About the young kids, the youngsters.
They're all riding them too now.
Yeah, running people off.
They don't pedal. They
off
just
the sidewalks.
they just-
I know.
they just turn the throttle on.
I was just looking at one the other day going, gosh, if I had that when I was a kid, I probably would have been in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
You know, or run into a lot of things. Or, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I have a bell.
Yeah.
I wanted like a truck horn for
Oh,
my
yeah, you
bell.
need one of those. Yeah, you need a train horn.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great.
Okay. There you
All right. Mark, do you know if mediums can communicate with the dead? Just imagine what a large can do.
It's going to get worse, Cheryl.
You know,
I got news for you.
guy got pulled over by a police officer and said, a speeding ticket, what am I supposed to do with this? Police officer said, well, you can collect them, and when you get 5, you get a bicycle.
Love it.
So don't laugh too hard about this one. In their first biochemistry class, medical students were standing around a table with a urine sample. The professor dipped his finger into the sample and then tasted it. He then asked the students to do the same. They felt uncomfortable, but after some time, all of them followed his example and tasted it. After everyone finished, the professor said, this is really important, folks. I'm serious. The most important skill is observation. I dipped my middle finger, but I tasted my index finger. Today you learned how to pay attention.
Oh my gosh, that's good.
Goodness.
It's a tough room. It's a very tough room.
Okay, so you're playing the Oregon Trail, and you run into a man named Terry. You laugh at him and say, well, that's a girly name. Terry shoots you. You have died from dysentery.
Wow. Arnold.
And
Arnold.
a tourist was admiring the necklace worn by a local Native American. What is it made of? She asked. Alligator's teeth, he replied. I suppose, she said, in a patronizing manner, that they mean as much to you as pearls do to us. Oh, no, he objected. Anyone can open an oyster.
Wow. Kiss your wife with that mouth?
And lastly, I was the best man at my brother's wedding in Paris. At the reception, I raised my champagne glass and said, egg, cinnamon bread, and maple syrup. It was a French toast.
Take a bow. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's all for this hour, folks. Thank you for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, you can listen to more episodes at stlintune.com, where you can leave a review and also follow us. We want to thank Bob Berthasell for our theme music, our guests, Cheryl Eicher-Jett, and co-host Mark Langston. And we thank you for being a part of our community of curious minds. St. Louis in Tune is a production of Motif Media Group and the U.S. Radio Network. Don't forget, folks.
I won't.
Keep listening.
Yep. Keep learning.
Keep learning. Walk worthy. And let your light shine. For St. Louis in Tune, I'm Arnold Stricker.